Well, hey there, y'all. It is Jersey Girl. How y'all doing tonight? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to make sure that I don't do a whole lot of banging because the way that my computer is set up, sometimes it like ricochets a little bit. So I'm going to try to do really good by not banging on it, okay? But welcome to Jersey Girl Cozy Niche. Tonight, as y'all can see, we are going to be having ourselves a very good conversation. And I definitely want you guys to make sure that y'all are interacting because we are getting into this thing tonight, honey. So it is the relationship portion of Jersey Girl Cozy Niche, and it is properly titled Superwoman. Okay, look here. She tied. Okay, her cape, she tied. Shoes, she tied. Outfit, I don't know. Her outfit was kind of bad though. So we can go ahead. She can keep the outfit. She can keep the outfit going. Okay. So y'all already know how this goes. We are gonna go ahead and kick it off with some music. And this particular song, I think, is absolutely perfect to go along with everything. Okay, so I want y'all to go ahead and let me know if it's not up too loud or if it's too loud. So, go ahead and leave some stuff down in the comments so we can go ahead and rock it out. Okay, and here we go. Can y'all hear it good? A little bit. Here we go. Hold on. It used to be so sweet, and I can't help but to wonder if you're talking about me. We don't talk the way we used to talk. It's hurting so deep. I've got my pride, I will not cry, but it's making me weak. I'm not your superwoman. I'm not the kind of girl that you can let go and pretend everything's okay. Boy, I am only human. This girl is more than occasional. Hers as a token of love from you. We're gonna pause her right there, okay? All right. We're gonna just pause her for a hot second. If y'all don't know, I done already put the disclaimer. I do not own the rights to this here music, okay? But who we were just rocking out to was the one, the only Karen White. And that song was Superwoman. Y'all already know how I do. I'm an octopus, so I'm looking at you here, but I also have my phone over here, and I got another laptop over here. Okay, it's what I do. It's what I do. But like I told you guys what the show is going to be about. So let me go ahead and introduce my crew that's going to be on with me tonight so we can go ahead and get into this here thing. Yes. So coming to this, they're going to introduce themselves. Okay. They're going to tell you who they are and the wonderful things that we're going to talk about tonight. But we're going to go ahead and showcase my friends. Say, hey, y'all, as I unmute y'all mics.
Hey.
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 So we got my girl Deanne up top, and that is our Philly chick.
Mm-hmm.
We got my cousin Monique. Hey, cousin.
Hey,
and
girl.
Then we got my girl Tracy down here. Hey, Tracy. So I want y'all to go ahead and introduce yourselves to the audience so they can get an opportunity to know who you wonderful ladies are. Deanne, you go ahead and go first, girl.
Well, I am Deanne. Originally from the Philadelphia area I've been to Texas though now 32 years. So, but that Philly run deep. The attitude, the everything, it run deep. So I haven't learned to be a quiet, quaint Southern woman yet. Don't ever think I ever will either.
Don't lose yourself. Stay yourself.
Yeah, that's right. I like it just the way it is now.
There we go. Okay, and then Monique, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I am Monique Hunter. I am a native Houstonian, Texan. I was raised in Uncle. And yeah, I don't know if I know how to be quiet either. But yeah.
That's pretty much it for you, cousin.
That's pretty much it. I'm very introverted, so
Okay, and Tracy, go ahead and introduce yourself, darling.
I'm Tracy. I'm living in Texas for 9 months, maybe. And
Oh,
I've
wow.
lived all over the country, born in Virginia, raised in Michigan, and I've lived as far away as Alaska.
Oh,
So
wow.
Oh wow.
Now, I've never been to Alaska, although I heard that it is very, very beautiful in the summertime,
it is beautiful. It's beautiful all year,
even when it's
Alaska,
cold out.
even when it's cold out.
Girl, I don't know about if that.
Oh,
I don't
it's
know about it's
beautiful.
cold.
Northern lights and
Oh, I think the Northern Lights would be absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous,
oh yeah,
gorgeous.
it
Yeah. So
is.
I'm gonna make sure that I got my Facebook. Wait, I gotta make sure I turn the volume down. Y'all know how I do. I'll be like, oh, let me go make sure y'all can hear me, and then my volume be all up loud, like, mm. So Dan, why don't you tell us about exactly what is your
What is
nationality?
your
What is your background?
nationality?
I am Italian and then Scotch English. So, but predominantly was always around the Italian, especially the area I grew. Well, the area I grew up in was very culturally diverse. So, but just came. Have you ever met a quiet Italian? I think we had a few, just a few. But that's probably because they were the babies of their family. I was the oldest, So, um, and just we are very kind of strong, but we are kind of that traditional in the back to the man as it was back then. That's the way I grew up seeing my parents at first, and it went until later that I needed to change that. It was very traditional back then, for that, for family.
Got you.
Most of
Now,
my,
what about you, Monique? What background do you hail from?
So, well, my mom's
Y'all
side,
get a dictionary
they
ready.
are.
Here we go.
My mom's side is Creole from Louisiana. My grandfather was Cherokee Indian. My grandmother is white, and her dad was mixed white and black. My dad's side is Latino. There's roots from Puerto Rico, Spain, and my grandfather was black. So growing up, I mainly grew up around my mom's side of the family, so a lot of the Creole culture, and of course, there's very loud and love to eat, you know, food from Louisiana, so spicy, very foods. To cater to your husband, and so all the children growing up, all the girls, we came up in the kitchen. We had to know how to cook. We had to do all of that stuff. So they were basically groomed for marriage. Because if you could cook a good Creole meal, then you could get married.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. What would you say that you identify yourself is what nationality, knowing that there's a pretty good mix for you? What would you say that you identify more as?
A child of God. I don't. For me, I don't put myself in a box, so I don't, because I've learned all the different cultures and everything. So just for me, I am just me. I mean, I don't identify as one or the other. However, society on my birth certificate, it says Black, Negro. So I guess that's what the world defines me as. But
So
for me,
you would pretty much
myself,
define yourself as mixed because you're saying you're a conglomerate pretty much of all of that.
exactly.
Oh, gotcha. Tracy, how about you, darling?
I'm as white as you can get. I'm English, Scottish, Irish, Norwegian. That's all I got. But,
Nothing
but
wrong with that, Tracy.
it is what it is, right?
Mhm.
But no, my parents divorced when I was young, so my mom was always very strong in that she didn't want anyone to think a man could control her. But
Mm,
then when she did have relationships, it was very dysfunctional and submissive. So it was kind of do as I say, not as I do
mm-hmm.
type
Gotcha.
thing.
Well, for me, I identify as an African American woman. Don't let the blonde hair fool you. One of my nicknames. Well, my grandmother endowed all of us with a nickname. She called all her grandkids ugly. That was a term of endearment. Okay, so don't come from my grandmother because I cut you. And actually, today is her birthday. Happy heavenly birthday to my grandmother. Um,
Oh, happy.
yeah, Grandma Alice. So yeah, she uh, would call us, well, my cousin Lovey, her nickname was Blackie, and but that was just terms of endearment. I at the time, one of my nicknames, depending on who calls me in the family, is Chocolate Baby. Now you look at my complexion, you're just like, huh. But honestly, you look at the women on my mom's side of the family, my great aunts and things, they are basically you all's complexion. So we got a rainbow coalition in our family. And we don't mind and we don't care. We actually love it and we appreciate it because it makes us diverse. And so, but it can be a bit off-putting if growing up in the community that we did, that was a very small community, and racism was alive and well. Let's just put it like that. So it's just like, oh, okay. But things that you learn and you move around and deal with. So I want to ask you guys, did you grow up in how was your upbringing? Did you grow up in a two-parent home or a single parent home? And Monique, we'll go ahead and start with you. Was it a two-parent or was it a split home?
It was a two-parent home up until I was 15. That's when my parents separated and then eventually divorced. I'm the oldest of three kids. I have two younger brothers. So I kind of got to see both sides. Like growing up elementary, middle school, I was a rarity because my parents were still together. But then as I went to high school, then I became the majority because a lot of my friends and stuff had divorced parents and we were growing up in a single household. So I grew up both ways.
Got to. Now, how about you, Tracy? Single parent, dual, or
My
split?
my parents divorced when I was 2, and I remember the day my dad left, but they divorced when I was 2, and my mom, my brother, and I lived with our grandparents, her parents, and my dad remarried 6 times, so he had a revolving door of wives that came and went. So
Oh, now did you live with your mom or did you live with your dad?
primarily lived with my mom. We saw my dad every other weekend and some holidays and occasional vacations and that kind of stuff, but mostly my mom.
Gotcha. Now, how about you, Deanne?
I was blessed to have parents married all the way till my dad passed away 13 years ago. My parents were always together. And I mean, it was a family, it was all about the family. We did everything together, all the time together, Sunday meals together. I mean, if you weren't at we had to sit at the dinner table every night and the TV was off and we had to converse with each other. And when I moved down to Texas when I was 20, I still was very close to my parents. I still talked to them. My children were actually closer to their grandparents in Philadelphia than the ones that lived 2 miles away. So I always had a close family. And as a matter of fact, the rest of my family actually moved in together. They all lived together. My mother, father, two sisters, my sister's two children, all lived in a multi-generational home up until my mother passed away 2 years ago. So my family's always been real close knit and we always had both of them in the same house. But my dad was very ill. So mom had to be mostly, the breadwinner and all of that. But dad was very domineering. But it was everything. Like it was family first, family all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I grew up. It was split, and it was actually the reverse. So my mom was a single parent, and then later on she married my stepdad. So they got married their marriage date was May 13th of 1989, and then I turned 11 May 21st. So and then they were together for 25 years. So they divorced, but by the time they divorced, I was already grown. So I had that time frame of my mom being a single parent and then having a step parent. So it was a reverse side of things. So, I wanted to ask you guys, when you, because of the Deanne, for you, the split only happened, quote unquote. It really wasn't a split. What happened is that your dad passed away, right?
Mhm.
So, how did that impact you? Seeing, having both your parents at home, how was their relationship, and how did that impact you when you started dating?
Well, it back to being the Italian, the domineering father. So dad ran everything. I was not. No. It was a very strict thing. My dad was very loving though, but you had to be home when the street lights came on. You couldn't talk to boys on the phone. Actually, when I met my ex-husband, he was stationed in the Navy in Philadelphia is how we met. And I called him, and my father picked up the phone and says, "My daughter is a lady and does not call guys," and hung up on him. Oh yeah. When I would get ready to go on dates, he would work out in the basement on punching bags and stuff so they would hear it. And he'd come up full of pig and everything and said, "I'm Lou Valor. You taking my daughter out tonight? Exactly the way she looks right now is the exact same way she's going to look when she gets home." And everybody was afraid of him. So I really couldn't date my area because of that. But and that was that. And then I met my ex. So I was used to a domineering person. And I was like the first person to be divorced, really. So I then, had a divorce myself. So even though I had that family and there's just some things you just can't do. And so.
Mhm. Now, how about you, Monique? How did you view your parents being because they were together for that time frame until you got up in high school, and then it was a shift for you. So how did you view their relationship, and how did that mold how you began dating?
Um, their relationship, it really did. When they split, it really didn't it didn't phase me per se. Um, because my dad was always working. So it was already, so when the transition happened, it was already kind of like mom was like a single mom. Like we did everything with my mom. Like we were always like with my grandparents. Both of my grandparents were married until they passed away. My grandmother and grandfather, my dad's parents, died 1 year and 4 days apart from each other. So I saw them growing up in a loving relationship, and my mom's parents, my grandmother's 93, so she's the only grandparent I have left. So a lot of my molding when it came to relationships and marriages came from the influence of my grandparents and not really my mom and dad, if that makes sense.
No, that makes
So,
sense. How
you
about you,
marry, you don't. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Could you hear me? I'm not sure if there's like a lag or a pause, but how did that go for you, Tracy, as far as the way that you viewed, your parents when they, well, I mean, obviously you were 2 when it happened, so it's a bit different. So how did that impact you, not having your dad around, and like you mentioned, there being like a revolving door of women? How did that impact you when you started dating?
Not, I think I looked at both of my parents as the examples of what not to do. My mom was alone and angry about it, and my dad was desperately looking for love in all the wrong places. And I didn't want to do either. So I think for me, I was desperate to get married just to get out and have my own life. And I thought I could make everything perfect. So when I got married at 21, it was to the wrong person. So I felt like I was a combination of the two. I wasn't happy like my mother was, but I didn't want to be like my dad and looking for love in all the wrong places. And I stuck it out for 16 years before I left just because I didn't want to be either one of them. And I think it was a setup for failure right out of the gate.
Gotcha. The way that I kind of viewed my parents, my mother, obviously being a strong woman beforehand, being an independent woman beforehand, and I'll get into the whole strong of what our discussion is, was that she was doing everything. She was taking care of everything. And so I'll never forget a conversation that my stepdad had actually had with a friend of his when we were living in this house out in Red Bank. Red Bank was the area that we lived out in Jersey. And so, he was just kind of like, hey, once I got the kids, the mom is a shoo-in. So for me, the minute I started dating, when I had my son, I was like, yeah, first one to think he gonna play daddy, that's the one I ain't messing with. He out the door. Don't think you're gonna get to me by getting through my kids. Mm-hmm. So for me, and at the time, like I said, only being at that time like 10, 11 years old, that comment was so impactful to the way when I started dating, and I was a single parent as well, like my mom was. She was a single parent at a young age, and I repeated the same thing. Being a young parent at an early age, being a single parent at an early age, that was my mindset going in. Any guy that tries to get to me through my kid, the answer is no. And that was just the way that I kind of viewed it. And my mom, like I said, being as strong as she is, the Bible talks about when I was a child, I spoke as a child. And so there's a lot of things I saw about my parents, their interaction with each other, but I'm just a kid and I'm processing it through what I know, not knowing the details. And I wasn't supposed to know, I'm a kid, but I made up my mind then about the type of man I wanted and I would deal with. And my stepfather was definitely not it. I was like, you just like another kid up around here. And my mother can vouch. They had to go through the ringer with this one. They really did. So watching how strong my mother was in the relationship and seeing that he was trying to vie, if you will, for that at times, I was just like, why can't she just let him be? But the fact of the matter is that I was looking at it through child's eyes. So I didn't really know what the dynamics really were. She knew all the ins and outs that was happening and taking place, not me. And so I viewed my stepfather as another kid in the house. I'm like, well, heck, if you got to ask for stuff, you just like one of us. I'm not. And I'm like, and if you think I'm going to marry a dude like that, you absolutely wrong. So when I did get married, for me, kind of like Tracy said, I was like, I'm going to do everything opposite. So as much as I am very strong in my personality, with others and just my personality, period, when it came down to my marriage, I was not. I definitely was like, he is the head of household. He takes the reins. I'll follow his lead. Whatever he says to do, we do. Now that it can be very jarring for some people to be able to grasp and understand, but that's okay. They didn't need to grasp and understand it. When I finally started putting my foot down, was when things began to change and shift. And then I was feeling guilty, like, should I not have? And it was just like, no, I shouldn't. But again, because of the promise I made to myself, I'm never going to marry someone like that. And so I began seeing the relationship of my mother and father. I started seeing some of that in me. And it was just like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be. But again, I was a kid kind of seeing that. So it definitely molded me. When I began to date and heck, when I got married, it definitely was impactful. So, Deanne, what you had mentioned that your dad was very domineering in his personality, and so was your first husband. So, were there any other characteristics that you had in your dad that you look for in a man, either the same or opposite?
Yeah, I mean, because when you get a little bit older and the reflection falls back, and I was trying to figure out what other similarities that there were in that. And funny, my dad was funny, and so was my ex-husband, and I think that was about it. For me, let's say we did not date long. My ex was my first. We met in May. I was pregnant in June,
Oh,
July, and so I was 19 when we got married. Well, I was 19 when I had my daughter. So I just, turned 19 that August, got with her. So, that first love, that first everything, it was all of that. But because of growing up as a Christian, but not, I left the church at a young age, but it was like, no, you have to stay married. You have to stay married. And because it's so hard to say this now because I would never want it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm divorced is, I didn't see myself as anything else but a body. All everybody told me that I had once I got older, because I was an ugly duckling, just had these looks. So I didn't have much. So then I was going to art school, and I had to get out of art school because then I got married and moved to Texas, and I had this daughter that I had to raise. And he was very domineering. And it wasn't until I got out and worked and other people saw and were telling me I was pretty smart. So I wasn't looked anymore as just, and of course, at 115 pounds, he would tell me I was fat, I was ugly, and then other people tell me I was smart, and I wasn't. And I finally was like, I don't have to put up with this anymore. And I see my God moment in everything now, even though he wasn't right there. But I said, I cannot have my daughter thinking it is okay to be treated this way. And even though my son was a year old, I said, I cannot have him think it's okay to treat women this way. And I believe that's when, even though God doesn't like divorce, there was other things, all in the marriage and stuff, but it was at that moment was my God moment. But he was was actually a little worse than my dad was on how he could put you down. My dad was, this is the way it is. As we run, we jump. Dad wants something, you get it, you do it, kind of thing. And even though sometimes he would say stuff to my mom, it wasn't as bad. But then again, they used to say, I used to run around and tell the neighbors, Dad just punch holes in the wall, so.
now how about you, Monique? For yourself, how did how you viewed your dad? How did that translate over to you? As a woman, and what you were looking for in marriage, or did it at all? You mute. Hold on. You muted yourself. You got to unmute yourself. You muted yourself. There you go. Mute. Now. Nope. You muted yourself again. It's like you
won't let
me
do it.
Oh,
It
no,
won't
we
let
can hear you now.
me.
Oh, it won't let you do it? Try now. Okay, we'll go to Tracy. We'll go to Tracy. So Tracy, how about you tell us?
I think my first husband, he was Hispanic. And I think I was more drawn to his family and the culture of family. Everybody was there for each other and they loved each other. And I mean, they were almost two there sometimes, but I think I was drawn to that more than I was drawn to him. And that's why I married him. But then I stayed because of the family aspect, and it was the right thing to do. And I didn't want to be the divorced single mom and, the whole thing. So I stayed way too long. But I think it was just, I was looking for that family that I didn't feel I had growing up. And that's what attracted me. More than anything was the whole family aspect.
Gotcha. Monique, is yours working out? Looks like you're off mute. You want to say something?
Yeah. What was the question again? I'm sorry, because it was going in and out.
Oh, okay. So basically, how your dad was, what were their characteristics about your dad that maybe made you attracted to your husband, or when you were dating that kind of were you looking for, or maybe you weren't looking for? So how your dad, were there any changes?
My dad is a very caring, very loving, kind of like, I'm not gonna say soft spoken. It's just when he speaks, you listen. You know, he's very knowledgeable, and so one of the characteristics that I saw in my husband was that reminded me of my dad is the the loving aspect. Like my dad is very a very very caring, very big hearted person. So that's really what attracted me to my husband.
Okay. Seems we're breaking up just a little bit.
Um,
Before we, and it's already 8:01. I told y'all this 30 minutes goes by so extremely fast. But what I did want to get out
we
there
need
just
to
real quick, you guys can sum it up just a little bit. Just in this question, because like I said, this is a jump off conversation. This is not the last conversation that we're going to have about this, y'all, at all. Because all of this, the reason that we're talking about being a strong woman, a super woman, is that there's a beginning to all of it. It didn't just poof come out of nowhere. The formative years of when we're making that, when we're sponges, when we're absorbing all this information, and our brains are growing and developing, we're making decisions. Our environment, our friends, all of these things are contributing to decisions and things that we're making. So that's why we are talking about what was your background. Growing up in the same home, how did you view your dad? So my question before we go ahead and end it for tonight, and like I said, it's just going to be ending the show. It's not going to be the end of the conversation. Is so you told me how you viewed your dad and how that impacted you. So now the question that just give us a little taste, because again, we're going to go ahead and touch back on it. How did you view your mom in the midst of this? Her as a mom and then her as a wife. And then Tracy, will start with you first and then work our way up to Monique and then Deanne.
My mom was a very angry, controlling mother. She would accuse us of things we didn't even do. We didn't even have to do it. Didn't have to think about it. You were already guilty. So, but she was just very angry, very almost anti-men. All men were guilty. All men were users and abusers. And that was just how she.
Uh-oh. Froze. You froze a little bit, Tracy. Hopefully she'll come back in. Wi-Fi will hopefully come back in. Okay, while we're waiting on her, Monique, are you still active? Can you hear? Okay, how about you, Deanne?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
my mom is. I would say my mom was loving and sacrificial. She give up everything for her kids. She'd take nothing so we'd have it all, and she just gave it all up so her kids could have everything. Have it all.
Mm,
That type of stuff, and very loving. Yeah, very sacrificial.
okay. So for you, for your mom as a wife and as a mother, you held her in high regard for it.
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Still, she passed away 2 years ago. Still do to this day. Yep.
Gotcha. Monique, are you active? Look like she might be frozen as well.
I'm hardwired. That might have helped.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I knew it was something because now she's spinning to say like, okay, what's going on? And Tracy may end up popping back in if she can. But I do want to just say thank you so much for coming on tonight. We are going to continue this discussion. Obviously, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with Wi-Fi on our other guest side. Hopefully they'll get a chance to pipe back in. But like I said, this is just a tip of the iceberg for us because, like I said, there is a starting point. And the main thing I've been hearing over and over again is like, we are tired. women that have, it talks about women that are strong or people that are strong. Check on your strong friends. Because we're so used to always reaching out and checking in on everybody else, that we do have a tendency to neglect ourselves and forget about ourselves. Because obviously we have this bar in our head that we're trying to keep and or trying to reach. And there was a starting point for that bar at some point in time. So what we're doing is beginning to peel back the layers to this onion to say, where did it come from? Where is it rooted? And then where are you at now? And so we're going to continue to have this conversation, but I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks so much to Philly Chick for coming on. Monique has joined again. Monique, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so real quick, and Tracy may end up popping back in, but just real quick before we go ahead and end it, did you get a chance to hear the question I asked in regards to the mother?
So mother, yes. My mom, the thing that I learned from her is what not to do as a mother and a wife. Mom's very narcissistic, very a narcissist is the best way that I can put it. So everything that there's some valuable things that I learned, from her, but most of it was how not to do, how I did not to be like her. I wanted to be better, and as a mother and as a woman, period. So,
Gotcha. You're breaking up.
And I thank God for that.
What I gathered with that you were saying was that basically you learned the opposite. So that she was
correct
dealing with things, and for you, you were like, I want to do the opposite, not necessarily perpetuate what was put in front of me.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that is it for Jersey Girl. I got to make sure that I let y'all know exactly what we need to do. Y'all can go shopping at jerseygirl-cozyniche.com. But of course, okay, you can be able to get all your great finds. You can see some of the things I have behind me. So this beauty was just recently created. Yes, just a nice little decorative piece. We're calling this Diamonds and Pearls. Would you like a boy or a girl? Hey. So this is just a nice little lovely piece that you can have. This was my very first one that I tried. So you can have some flowers and stuff put in it. So just some fun things, aprons, t-shirts, custom dominoes, aprons. Y'all know how it goes. So you're able to go ahead and shop with Jersey Girl, -cozyniche.com. And of course, Jersey Girl, we cover all things home, decor, DIY projects, craft/cooking. Y'all know how it goes. Personal growth and development. Development more so is about community, businesses. So you got businesses, okay? We want to be able to hear about it. How you're reaching out to your community. What's going on in the community, okay? Ways that we're improving and we're connecting as a community. We are the people of the United States. We are the United States. We don't want to be the divided states, okay? And so that's what I'm talking about when it comes down to community awareness, and being able to reach and be able to just do some great and phenomenal things. So thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. Like I said, this is just the beginning. We are going to continue conversations in regards to Superwoman is tired, and being a strong woman can be tired and tiresome. So we're going to continue to divulge into all this great stuff. And again, thank my Philly chick for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. I want to thank Monique for coming on.
Thank you.
And then I also want to thank Tracy for coming on. She bopped off. It's internet stuff. It happens, y'all. So it is the one, the only Jersey Girl. And y'all already know how I'm going to end with some music. But of course, so y'all hold tight. And here we go. Wraps it up for this edition of Jersey Girl Cozy Niche. Thank you guys so much for rocking out with us. Make sure that you hit that bell, the notification bell, so that way you can be notified every single time I go live or upload a new video. Because the YouTube channel is where you get your steak, potatoes, desserts, and
Drinks, baby.